Hey, I'm Daniel. This is Coop, and welcome to the tour of my Ford Transit. This is a 2017 Ford Transit, and that is the year that I started going full-time in the van. So from there to now, this is going into my 6th year in 2022. It's a cool morning here in the Pacific Northwest, and with this wind, I think we're gonna bring the tour inside just so I can warm up and so you don't hear as much wind. This layout was something that I knew I would likely keep open and not cover half of the door. That's important for me because I love being the camp. I love providing an open space, open door policy. If people need things, it's easy to get in. And if we are hanging out in a group and we are doing like one of the propane fire pits, or everyone's hanging, there's plenty of room. We can turn this chair around, people can sit on the bench, and also on the step. It's easy to congregate. I just always feel like I want to be hanging out with people, and I designed the van to allow me to travel to see my friends. I had to keep the layout open for that purpose. All right, I wanted to show you guys the kitchen. What you see is what you get here. You're also in the foyer and my living room, but what we've got is an induction cooktop. Here's sink and access to the faucet, and where our water system is contained underneath the cabinets, and then just counter space. I just had this out because it's morning and was enjoying some coffee. But behind here, I have access to some outlets just for cleaning things up and keeping things tidy. You can just drop that back behind and that's out of the way. I like this setup also because here you've got your window vents. You can open these so when you are cooking, you can allow airflow to come in. And then if you've got your fan on, it's easy to ventilate. I do very much appreciate that, because if you cook some amazing Pacific Northwest salmon, you don't want your van smelling like it the rest of the day or week. For cooking, running the fridge, or boiling water for coffee, all of that runs off of the electrical system in the van. That also will continue to run anytime as long as we're either driving or the solar is receiving clear direct sunlight. There is a good safeguard there, so when you do drive around, at least for 10 to 15 minutes, you typically get a jump on the house batteries, which is just run through an alternator charging cable. It's quite simple, and that does give you a bit of a fail-safe just so you're never running the house batteries on all of your appliances, which keeps it simple and you always stay juiced.
I'm Nate Murphy, author of the Van Conversion Guide, and I just want to let you know that I'm hosting a free online training which will teach you how to make van life zero cost or profitable. In this free seminar, I will show you exactly how to choose a van, build it out in a profitable way, and avoid the mistakes that most people make. I will show you how I made van life completely free and a bunch of other stuff that people don't really talk about. If you want to join, click the link here or in the description and register for free. I'll see you there.
As for cabinetry, if it's over the kitchen galley, it's my dry goods. So if you would want access to your food, that's what I have set up. Up here, we've got, I like to claim to eat healthy, but if you look around, you might find a couple cookies, crackers, and things like that. But mostly protein bars and just quick sources of healthy foods. I think things typically move around a good bit in transit and driving, bumps, whatever it takes. Like if you think it can move, it will in van life. So I found just little trays to use. And sometimes I'll keep things in the package that I find at the store. It tends to keep it contained and from falling out whenever you open these, and that's more than beneficial. All right, other side is coffee and things, seasonings, my own multivitamins, as well as my dogs, and dog treats, of course. Nothing too wild, because he does take up probably a good half of my living space. I definitely have a good amount of stuff for him as well in here, because he's not only a good roommate, but he's been a lifetime companion. So love old boy, and keeping his stuff around is part of the lifestyle. You may have noticed that I have some bike influenced accessories here in the van. These are some old bike chains that were just corner welded to keep them in place, as well as my old handlebars from my college bike. I had them, I used them. It was just stuff that I figured could be upcycled into use into the van. I've loved having them myself. However, as I've had some renters and friends use the van, not many people find these to be friendly. If you're moving quickly and you knock head, elbow, knee on them, they don't feel great. But I mean, that in general never feels good anyway. Being close to the kitchen and the sink, I did want to have paper towels handy, so that's why that's mounted there as well. Additionally, some hooks and a floating shelf here. Also a nightstand, but I do find that occasionally if you're getting stuff off of the kitchen counter and you're prepping a meal, it's nice to have places to move things so they're out of the way during the meal prep. Right here also, you may notice I've got just one of these glass suction style holders. It's got drain holes on the bottom as well as a place for me to keep just a scrubber and a brush. I like having those for cleaning dishes. And this has been something I've really appreciated, and it's just a sink insert. It's collapsible, although I leave it here full time. I prefer to wash dishes in this now exclusively. I don't use the gray water tank anymore. I used the gray water initially, and I found I just don't create enough gray water to have to then store it, and I would rather convert that container into fresh. Done. Having fresh water, as you find, on the road is more of a commodity than anything, so I'd rather have an additional 7 gallons than try to store maybe a gallon or 2 of gray water. So I'll just use this while I can, heat some hot water for the dishwashing, use this, pull it out. Right now it's just banana storage and an additional dish rag. So here's the side view of the kitchen where the sink's at. This is where I do have an on switch for the water pump, which can just happen to run when you're using these style of pumps. That's Coop drinking. Sometimes when these pumps get primed, they just start running. So that's why I didn't have an on switch and an off switch applied, just in case for some reason it's still searching for water. I wasn't in the van and it did pick up and come on, which I've had happen. It's nice to have the switch. Since it is searching for water and I'm not using it that much during the winter in case things freeze, I'm taking it easy and trying not to chance ruining a seal on the faucet. Over here, I've just got regular wall outlets. Here I've got 2, and I had an additional added inside the sink just so I could have this plugged in all the time and my electric kettle available to be plugged in at all times as well. But over here is where you can be doing your charging and, you know, just slow charging for camera batteries, your phone, and your computer. Don't really touch the house battery reserve. It doesn't bring them down at all. So I could charge everything that I own and it doesn't affect the power at all. So because so many things are USB nowadays, having a splitter to where you have multiple outlets is more than worth it. And I just leave this all the time because I am splitting it all the time for GoPro batteries or camera batteries and the like. So here is the water system. 3 tanks of fresh water at 7 gallons apiece, and if needed, a gray water tank, which I don't have in use right now. Water pump back there, and mostly just storage and places to keep things. I think people forget that you typically have everything you would have in a house. So I've got extra things like cleaning rags, scrubs. There's the underside of my induction stove, and then of course the outlets for coffee and that, so they can remain plugged in at all times. And then quick disconnects here so you can have the hose in and out from tank to tank very easily with single hand action. Dustpan and a quick broom, and then some of my favorite stops along the way during this journey of van life. So of my drawers here, the ones that are closest to the kitchen are more related to cooking, storage, utensils, etc. Those just have a lock that when they go in, they stay. So it typically just takes a little bit of a tug to get them out. And like a house, I do have a junk drawer, and in here you can find miscellaneous everything else, screwdrivers, tools, things like that. First aid kit, and lighter, clamps. I mean, if you can name it, I've got it in here. Multi-tool, lantern, maybe some road trip games as well. This van is set up to rent right now, so I do have some extras. Bungees, some fire starter, fresh Tupperware, headlamps, and things like that. As well as a manual that I created. Bug spray, just sort of funny things like a collapsible dog bowl, ratchet straps, and then road trip games. There's backgammon and card games, etc. like that. So it would be fun on the road. This bench seat right here is great to get into the bed, but it also pops up and can be a dinette. So these aren't just bench seats, but they're also storage containers. In here I keep a variety of things that are just quick grabbing. Got my camera gear, dirty clothes bin, extra shoes. I keep some of my gym stuff as well, my running shoes and other things like that. Protein and some electrolytes. And these are naturally deodorized urinals. Sorry you had to see that, but that is one part of van life that we do have to acknowledge. On the other side of my bench, I just keep other things, as I am a medical provider. I keep some of my important documents, some coffee gear as well, a blender, toiletries, and just some, moisture remover things. Nothing crazy here, but down below, if unpacked, let me pull this thing out. That's a finger hole where you can lift the false bottom out, and you can even see the tubing right there going to the S-bar heater. I recently added a few new things for renters, and that is a brand new toilet. This is just a cooler that I've got that remains. If it's full and it's heavy, you can actually use it as a perfect step for getting into and out of the van. And that is a pylon, so you can set the table up. So, maybe the only design flaw of the van is that it's difficult to get into that chair, but if you set the table up after your dinner date is in place, you're good to go. And I've absolutely loved having this because my outlets are close by. I can plug up and have a little bit of a home office when I do need to work on the computer, and it has been great to have a good space to spread out and have an opportunity to be comfortable and not necessarily in a cafe or having to search out Wi-Fi spots. All right, over here we have Command Central. That is all of the readouts from our batteries here in the van. This is a solar remote that does tell you battery voltage and the output that you're asking of it. If the blue light's on, you have access to using them here in the van. If off, you're not getting any use of the induction stove or the outlets. Here is a readout based off of how much you have in the house batteries at any given time, and conveniently another USB outlet if you do need to charge. That here is just a night light. I rarely use it because the lights are right there and they're right in your face. Another design flaw if I had to admit it. And then of course the S-bar heater, which is how we stay warm here in the winter, and a remote for the lights. The S-bar heater exits right here from that black circle. So versus this being a full depth cabinet like this one over here, this one is actually 6 inches less deep, which is where the S-bar heater is mounted, secured, and operating out of, so we don't lose much space from having it in. Back in there is where the input is, and then close by is the outtake. Right outside of this also is where our exhaust is, so if you are running it, you would want to make sure your T-vent windows here are off. Coop hopped up on the bench for us, so we can get into the fridge. Okay, so this is a 130 liter truck fridge, and it's pretty big for its size. I like it just because it does have stuff to keep things from sliding and rolling. This is a common noise you hear. That's why I have it packed the way it is. I also got a pan with some food still in it, so versus cleaning it that night, I just kept it in here versus dirtying another Tupperware and having to also then clean that. But it comes with a small rectangular freezer. I normally try to keep some meat or some ice cubes in there if I want a cold drink. Aside from that, everything else is pretty straightforward. I like having a produce drawer, so some stuff like that sliding around. And I try to pack apples, oranges, lemons, avocados, things like that, just with stuff around them. So I put the bag of carrots leaning on it to keep it from sliding around. But it's definitely packed to eliminate that style of noise. But overall, love having it this size, just because this will normally last me a good several days out in the backcountry, especially if I'm traveling with people or we're grilling out and doing community meals. Speaking of windows, I do like the T-vent windows over there, particularly because the way they look from the outside, they look very sleek and like they're meant to be that way from the manufacturer. I have had bad luck with it on this side, having to have replaced it. For some reason, it just didn't seem to last, and I had the issues with the adhesive panes staying on. So I did switch, and now I've got this slider window, which I am a big fan of. It allows more air, so when it comes to drying things, it's a lot better. I do not think it looks as good from the outside, but this does seem to be more reliable, and I have really enjoyed having the ability to quickly open it if someone's knocking on the van, and I can stare at them face to face. I do have some open air shelves without cabinet doors. I've loved having them. So I do keep some books and some other things, couple of beanies, additional stuff just where it can be stored. Always a blessing in van life. And the Transit, how it's different, it does have a bit more room here outside the slider door, provided I can't stand there based off of the height. But I did add a hangboard just so I have a bit of a home gym. So that's been a great feature to have as well. Just to practice grip. I'm always mountain biking and I used to be quite the climber, so I do appreciate having stuff like that around. And I am all about drying stuff out, especially here in the Northwest. So I added some flip down hooks just so I had variety, and those have been fantastic to hang wetsuits on or my towel after the gym. You may also be noticing this upholstery. This is one of the early vans that started doing this style of upholstery. Proud to say that. But really it goes to Van Life Customs and their innovation and vision for making vans feel homier. But this is an outdoor style burlap that pretty stain resistant, very soft, and it does add a very homey feel. It's not just the bare metal of the doors. So I think that looks great when it comes to looking around in the van. You don't continue to see shiny metal and you don't see your insulation. So underneath all this is insulation, as well as your sound dampening and your moisture barrier. And I think that has been largely fantastic for how warm this van stays. I am insulated all the way around, and I rarely need to use the heater unless it does go into the teens, where I am looking at freezing pipes and water tanks. I have never had freezing though, and I have gotten down into -20s. So I feel like I am pretty well set up in this to survive harsh conditions, but it definitely goes back to the construction of the vehicle. This is a headliner shelf I'm a big fan of. It also has a hanging rod, so I can put my gym towel on to hang, as well as connect a clothesline if I needed to. And this is, I got a few extra hats here, but this is where I keep my insulated privacy curtains. These pop up, they're made by Strawfoot, and it's a great place to stow them, but that's what covers all 5 windows. I don't know if it looks like it's night inside now, but it does do a pretty good job of not only blacking out light, but in terms of letting heat out, it is fantastic for keeping things warm once you get it heated up in here. I like to pride myself on being a minimalist, but back behind the dry goods, I have clothes, tees rolled up, and pants folded tightly. And then similar to I have the dry goods, I use a box in here just to keep boxers and socks from falling out every time I open it, and then just keep gym clothes and whatnot stashed in there. Depending on how I manage it, I've got some bike gear, active wear, things like that throughout, but the stuff that I use the least, I keep further in the back. And the stuff that I use more commonly, I keep very accessible and out. You know, winter wear is prominent right now, so it's very accessible to me up front. In fact, I have a jacket that I feel like I barely put away at all because I'm using it every day. This is a queen memory foam mattress. When I first had it in here, I noticed I just wanted more space, so I did shrink down to the 6-inch after being in here long enough. I didn't want the 8 or the 10-inch because your space to move around just decreases. So I love the 6-inch. It's more than enough padding, and I am a mummy style sleeper. I sleep head to toe here. I'm 5'6", so it's quite easy for me. And I go with a super firm mattress. These are Amazon puppers, like real easy to get a hold of, and at the price that they are, I find them to be almost disposable. Use them until you feel like they're no longer doing their job and just pass them along. So I have to trim these into place, and I think for about $200, I've always had one of my favorite mattresses of all time. Maybe I'm sleeping better in here because of the cold, but I prefer to sleep cool, but I do have my best nights of rest in here, and this firm memory foam has been absolutely what I've loved about calling this home. So of course my dog needs to be watered, but we keep a fire extinguisher handy, and close to the door we access our fan. So we are now running with the fan. And that is a style of Max Air that also has the rain hood, so it will not close in the rain. You will notice that I have an AC plumbed in at this time. It was something that I planned in advance, knowing that there's a chance I may be in a hot climate. I'm from Tennessee, and I've also hovered around the Red Rock Desert a good bit. And in that scenario, just knowing that if I had the option to plug in to keep my dog safe and keep the van cooled off, I wanted to have that as an option. And when you're planning from scratch with these vans as a blank canvas, it was really important to cut it into the roof early, get the rack designed around it, make sure I had holes in it, etc. And it's a lot to power. So I didn't try to power it with battery. I knew that would be a lot to take on, not only in weight, but also financially with having that many batteries to use this style of Coleman RV AC. So I didn't do that. I've just got it set up to where if I do plug in at a power post or at someone's home, I could power it and then also enjoy AC when needed. It's not something I rely on, but it is a great option when needed. As I just mentioned, here's the back of the van, and that is my power outlet to plug in if I needed shore power from a home or an RV power post. Okay, so living actively outside is my thing. Mountain biking is for me. So I got 6 spots of bike. Inside, my boards are stowed. I normally have those bungeed up just to where they're secure and out of the way during transit. Extra board, my wetsuit hanging, and gear everywhere else. It's important to have it organized how you can, and when you're looking at gear like this, bikes are one of the most expensive things I probably have in the van. So I want to keep them stowed securely so they can't rattle, and that's how they're on. The bikes are mounted with Rocky mounts, so these are clamp fork mounting style mounts, and they mount right to L-track on the floor to where they're adjustable and can be moved to either side. Well, taking care of bikes is pretty much my next step after I ride it. So this hose is plumbed straight from my water in the kitchen all the way through the front, and then I have access to it back here. As long as the water pump is open and on up there, I can access water and take a shower back here, rinse the bikes, or use a hot water shower, which I power with propane right there. I do have an air compressor on board, so here's just a hose for that. But keeping this outdoor carpet on the doors back here allowed me to just stick Velcro pockets to it anywhere, and I've loved having them. Just for quick stuff to stow, biking, surfing, stuff to dry, and even housing a hatchet and then other shower parts here. In these stowed here, hatchet, axe, just gloves when I am working with wood or doing something outside. And then all the hose, soap, and gaskets for the Camp Chef outdoor shower. So that's on-demand hot water. So as long as it's plugged up to propane, when it feels flow of water, it heats it instantly, and then you have hot water coming out of the shower head. It's fantastic. Here's the onboard air compressor. I have that mounted securely in the back, so if I do need to deflate and reinflate the van tires or just work on my bikes, I'm able to do so with the flip of a switch. All 3 lithium batteries are here in a nice access box in the rear if I do need to access anything at all. And those are Battle-Born lithiums, getting me around 240 amp hours, which has been more than enough for me to power in this van. Additional things here, I've got a yoga mat, all of my bike shoes, boards, and it's nice to have my protective gear, tools, an extension cord. I keep a camp chair along, and of course, if a bungee or anything extra that I'm working on, if I do have quick access stuff, that's always nice. Bike pump, and actually not just a boutique style axe, but a better Fisker style axe as well for cutting wood and keeping things nice. To increase capability of this van, I added a van compass lift. It's a 2.5-inch lift. It allowed me to put all-terrain tires on it. They're 265/70/17s, so that's a 17-inch wheel, and the tread has been fantastic for just all weather conditions. This is also the Van Compass winch tray with the skid that goes underneath just for protection up front. I added a 12,000-pound winch, and it has been a fantastic addition. I think I've pulled more people out of places than myself. I added this to be compliant in California, and I have been capped repeatedly since I added it, so that'll be coming off just because there's no need to have it anymore. But it is great to have a winch receiver on the front as well. I've also got a ladder to access the rooftop just so you can get up there, hang out, and if you need to make repairs on the panels or the fan, anything else, it's easy to get up there. You can see fan, around 300 watts of solar panels, as well as the AC. Not everyone in vans is all about the rack, but this is why I am. I love to use my camera, get out, try to capture some of the scenery, and I just enjoy more livable space. Not something I use in the wind all the time, but having an awning is not bad either. Sets up with one person, and it's quite nice for getting some shade when you need it. It also does increase more livable space when you are hitting a good amount of rain, which isn't uncommon out here in Washington. If you were wanting to shower and get some privacy, these magnets here have been fantastic. If it's not too windy and you have to do a shower that's a little bit in a public place and you can't just bare ass it out into the woods, I do recommend having a curtain just so you don't get flagged as being publicly indecent. So with ease, this has been nice, albeit I'm parked a little slanted so it looks like it's pretty close to revealing my undercarriage, but I do try to have something that allows privacy, just so at least no one's offended when you're showering, right? I keep this back here in one of these Velcro containers just so it's always handy, and if it needs to dry, maybe I'll make sure it's in the sun or pull it out so it can hang dry and make sure I don't get any mildew. I added these seat covers. They're waterproof, they hide dog hair, so it seemed like a win-win to me. They also came with this mole style lashing on the back, which has been very nice. I keep anything from these Velcro style cargo nets on it, from his therapy vest when we go to work, and just other things. Even on the back of my driver's side when I've got, I think, a pack of gloves, as well as just a place to keep cords and whatnot for myself. But this also is a rotating chair, which is what I do love about the livability of this layout, is when this is turned, you have one of the best seats in the house. Watch out, buddy. We also added this lagoon table mount. I've got a friend who makes these plates right here. This company's called Vangineerings, and he mapped out this pillar to where you can easily bolt on this mounting plate. The lagoon table is really popular in the van life community, so with that here, I had a table made to where I can have an additional desk. Not that I need more desk space, but if I'm traveling with a companion that's not on 4 legs, then at least she can have a place to work as well in our dinette or here in the passenger seat. Pretty simple design here. It does rotate in and also around if you needed it. So if you are doing computer work, it's quite comfortable. It is very sturdy once on. And if you were to use it outdoors for just more table space and cooking, etc., it will get outside a good bit, and I'm quite grateful it does. So you can also exit really quickly and then move on to the next thing. All things considered, it's maybe not the easiest thing to tote around, just a big square of wood, but I have loved having the extra table space. This is the most comfortable seat in the house. Otherwise, I would be in the bed sort of lounging or at the dinette, and although comfortable, easier to get in and out of, I do appreciate this because it's a little cooler. I can have the door open, it's more free flow of air, and that's nice too. It's nice to have a bit of a view of what's going on around you versus being up in the bed too. And after covering the workspaces, I did want to show you the lounge spaces as well. If it's not here enjoying things, I'm normally going to be on my feet and outside, but when it does come to winding down, I have been so pleased with how this bed does seem to manage sleeping sideways but lounging this way. You also have access to the fan if you do need to change temps and cool things off. Well, I've traveled all over the US, Canada, and Mexico, but I've mostly hovered and what I would say lived on the West Coast, along higher elevations, chasing surf and mountain biking, and just trying to make sure temps are moderate, although we have hit the extremes. So it's easy for him to survive and it's comfortable for me. I'm a physical therapist by trade, so I chase work where the contracts are, and that allows me to come to a new area, already have a bit of a community because of the people I work with, and figure out sort of how to navigate that area. I normally pick only contracts that allow me the mountain biking and the surfing that I desire, or if I already know people, I'll set up contracts where I know there's good work and a comfortable lifestyle to be had. The pandemic has changed the medical climate and I find myself stepping away. I have begun group and personal coaching just so people can improve their lifestyles, simplify, and create systems to find themselves stoked more often than not. And that is not only a passion of mine, but how I've been living my life and how I found myself in this scenario, living a very lifestyle forward life. And if I could share it with others, I would absolutely love to. You can find more information below. Thanks for coming along for the tour. Glad you got to see my cozy cabin adventure wagon. Hey, if you see me on the road, get in touch. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment below, or you can find me on Instagram at Mountain Man Dan.
If you didn't notice, I am offering a free online training which will help teach you how to make van life free or profitable. In this video, I will show you exactly how to buy a van, how to fit it out in a profitable way, and teach you how to avoid the mistakes that most people make, and all the other stuff that almost nobody else talks about. If you are thinking about converting a van or living van life, it'll be one of the most valuable things you will ever watch. Just click the link, register for free, and I'll see you there. Another great place to start is to get the van conversion guide. It's packed with useful information and includes 20 video lessons to help you convert a van. Check our website, all the information is there.